Welcome to another episode of the Woman Up podcast, a place where we entertain, educate, and elevate women on this journey that we call life. And on this week's episode, I have the amazing Giap with me.
Hi everyone.
Hi. Thank you for coming. And firstly, check out her outfit. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you so much for having me. And it's really an important thing for me to support women, and I love what you do, and I'm just so grateful and honoured to be here, to be part of this community.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate you. We're going to start by playing a game that I've just made up. It's called 333. So it's 3 sets of 3 questions. Mm-hmm. So the first one is, would you rather? Then it's just finish the sentence. And then it's just 3 random questions, completely random. So would you rather sleep in or get up early?
Oh, gosh, that's a good one. Get up early.
Why?
So this is an interesting one. So last year I go on these pilgrimage trips with my girlfriends, my soul sisters, and we went to Guatemala, and I had a traditional Mayan card reading, astrology reading, and he said, I'm the bat. So I was like, what is this bat thing?
Yeah.
And what it means is that the bat wakes up at sunrise and catches the morning dew in order to, it's like there's this death and rebirth. And it's the cycle of walking down the 2 elements of dark and light, which really resonates with me. So he said to me that if I don't wake up and get up, which usually I get up around sunrise anyways, my body clock to go for a wee, and I go back to bed. But he said, this is why I'm always feeling tired and sluggish, because I'm not supposed to be. I'm supposed to be up at sunrise for the death and the rebirth.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a little bit deep.
I know, that's like the deepest answer for would you rather, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what time do you wake up just naturally?
Literally sunrise. It doesn't matter where I am in the world. So I've just got back from Aruba. Before that I was in Thailand, and then before that we were in Egypt. So there's just so many different body clocks, but my body will always wake up just as soon as the sun starts to hit light, and
wow, that's amazing.
Get up, take that wee, have a cup of tea and watch the sunrise, and off I go, and I'm much better human that way.
Do you go to bed really early then?
I do, and last night was a late one, and I feel really
oh no.
because the body doesn't stop, you kind of, it still wakes up at that time and expects you to keep going. So.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so would you rather have a pause button or a rewind button on life?
Oh Lord. Pause.
Why?
So I think when you choose the path of healing or the spiritual path, you start to change your mindset that everything, and it's not like everything happens for a reason, because sometimes things, can I swear on this, by the way?
Yeah, sure.
Because sometimes shit happens, and it's not that, there's a deeper meaning to everything, which I think sometimes the spiritual community tends to attach themselves to it. But from my journey of healing is, when I take a step back to reflect on things, there are always something to learn. The other thing that I've come to realize through this journey is growth always has discomfort and pain. Transformation requires the shedding of old layers, which means death. And that is painful. So if I had to rewind, am I rewinding things to do what? To try to change the lessons that's actually allowed me to be here today? Or am I rewinding in the sense of which is why I don't really adhere to traditional counseling or therapy, because you're replaying certain relationships and experiences and your body gets reactivated. And to me, sometimes it's a form of self-harm.
Oh, really?
So it, again, only talking for myself. Whereas actually what I'm looking for is to use these memories, experiences, see how I can learn, gain, and actually use it to allow me to move forward in life without bypassing the lessons. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What do you think you do with the pause then?
So in the pause, I like to call the pause the void. And I was in the void, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And the void sometimes to me looks like deep depression. And although I may not look like I've just been out of a deep depressive state.
No, you don't.
And I don't look like it, or I guess how people assume what depression or deep sadness or mental decline looks like. I think those who are always trying to bring positivity into people's lives because they've experienced deep pain or trauma hide it quite well. So in the pause, in my void, I actually am now sitting with these emotions that actually hasn't had the opportunity to be felt for a very long time. Most of my life has been in survival state and feeling safe to even feel, which is one of my biggest journey so far, is just creating that safety to feel again, to move through these deep emotions. And that's what I do in the pause, is befriend them rather than trying to shift, change, or judge or shame them.
Yeah.
But just befriend in the pause and we rest together.
That's amazing. So you already have pauses. You just don't physically pause time. So
Yeah, I mean, pause time could look like saying, at work, I'm having a mental health day.
Yeah.
Pausing could be when I say to a client, hey, like with me and my clients, I always like to move from a space of as much truth, authenticity and transparency as I can. So if I am having a mental health decline, there is no way I'm going to hold space for you and try to fake the funk. I understand accountability, but for me, you deserve all of me. And if I can't show up that way, that's not deserving you or empowering you. So I do take the pause and listen to my body, and in return hope that they are encouraged and inspired to do the same.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, I feel like we're already getting deep and we're still on like the icebreakers. Okay, this one is a more fun one. Is would you rather be able to speak to animals or speak all languages?
Animals.
Really?
Yeah. I have this relationship with humans, and some of my close friends would laugh because sometimes like, I really don't like people. I really don't like humans at times. But animals, it doesn't matter where you are in the world.
Yeah, I love animals.
And do you know what? Animals are so intuitive and they have healthy boundaries. You see how cats are just like, don't touch me, human. I will come to you if I need you. And I love that healthy boundary. I love how dogs love unconditional, how they express joy, even though they may have been abandoned. Like they always find a way back to joy and being joyful for others. So definitely animals over humans.
Okay. Okay, so finish the sentence. One day I am going to
open up my women's retreat center.
Amazing. Okay, we'll talk about that after. At night, I hate to.
Believe it or not, I'm actually scared of the dark. It's taken me.
I am too.
Oh, I have a nightlight.
That's so cute.
Yeah, my housemate bought me a nightlight because I used to like make him just lay there until I fall asleep. But yeah, scared of the dark. So
okay. So at night, I hate to be in the dark.
I hate to be in the dark.
Oh. Maybe that's why you get up with the sunrise, because it's like, yay, my fear is gone. Welcome the light.
Yeah, there's a funny story about that one as well, because when I was in Thailand, and this was when I first started my my spiritual awakening of actually working with spirits and energies. In my village, it's Thai village, there's no lights or anything, but we live on a farm, and the dogs would howl, and we used to tell ghost stories about how when the dogs howl, it means that there's like entities running around. So I had just started my Reiki level 1, and I was initiated, and my teacher specialized in entity release. So it's kind of like when you start something new, you want to go around and heal everyone's like, oh, look at me, let me heal you. So in being so open, and then the dog side, I was like, shit, I'm not actually prepared for this. What if something comes and get me? So I couldn't sleep, and it was pitch dark. But I did have an entity attack, and it happened as I waited for the sun to rise, because I felt safer as the sun was rising, thinking that would scare entities off, but
Yeah.
it didn't.
I want to talk more about this. I need to write all these little notes down to come back to it. Okay, let's note down entity attack because I want to know more about what that is. If I could master one skill instantly, it would be to...
That's a good question. I want to say tech. I am so bad at content creation.
Oh, no.
And it takes me a month to do like one post on Instagram. And I'm not sure, maybe I'm just lazy, but if I could just be like that tech savvy and get excited about tech and set this up myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe tech. It's the way forward, right?
Yeah.
So it is a skill that I should try to learn or pay someone to help me.
Okay. The previous guest said she wanted to learn editing as well. So I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, I don't want to content create, but yeah.
Yeah. Or focus on the creative side so that we can pay for people to do that. That's my vision.
Okay, so random questions is, what is your phone wallpaper at the moment?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I just got a new phone, so that one probably isn't anything. But the old one, it's a, have you heard of light language? Okay, so it's a light language code, so which looks like symbols, that was channeled by my friend Katie Jane. And it's an activation code of the feminine energy. So I have that on my old phone.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Are you going to put it back onto the new phone?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. I feel like the new phone should have something that either inspires me to get back into my fitness and my health, or inspire me to move towards my goals, like the bigger goals, like the retreat center.
Okay, so like a little mini vision board or something you need to put on
there. Yeah, because I think I like rest. I think I've been caught up with this hustle mentality. London definitely has that vibe. And I think for women, we're constantly criticizing ourselves and our achievements, especially like I'm coming towards my 40s. There's a lot of pressure on myself to have done or achieved things.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so I want it to be motivating to nudge me, but not actually to shame me into taking time out and trusting. That there's always that balance of trusting the process and actually being proactive.
I love that. What is the most ridiculous thing you believed as a child?
Oh my gosh, I saw this one in I keep on following Asian memes at the moment, but so in Thailand, we were told that if we I think it was if we ate laying down, we'll turn into a snake or a crocodile. I know. But that's a funny one. But another one, which is probably more aligned to the work that I do, is that actually growing up in Thailand, if you have, like on your thighs, if you have a gap, it means that you were a butterfly. And a butterfly means that you're, what's the word? Promiscuous.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So it's almost like, you must have had a lot of people between your legs. Yeah.
And that's why there's a gap.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I mean, I was really skinny and I was dancing and doing gymnastics and I still don't have boobs, but I remember my mum was just like, and then the village people was like, what does she get up to? And I'm like, whoa. Like, this is a lot of pressure for you.
Yeah.
So body shaming in a different way and around, your sexuality is being put on you because you may not look healthy in their eyes.
That's just so crazy.
I know.
Like, I don't think I've ever had a thigh gap.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm Latina, so none of us have them. So, yeah, I don't know what happened there with us, but yeah. And then the last one is... typical woman up question is, what 3 things do you love about yourself?
I'm going to say resilience, even though I don't like the word resilience.
Okay.
I'm going to, what do I love about myself? Oh gosh, I want to say they should be good questions. I mean, they should be easy questions, but I'm not really someone who reflects about myself in that way. I love the way I love.
Oh,
I think
okay. I
that's,
like that.
yeah. I love my ability to feel and have empathy for others in order to allow them to feel safe to be themselves around me.
Yep.
I love that I am colorful being. I think 1 minute I can be ghetto fabulous, the next minute I'm zen, and the next minute I'm like Miss, I don't know, seductive feminine Shakti running around. But there's just so many different aspects of me.
Yeah. I love that. I like those answers. I don't know why you struggled. They were great.
Oh, I think I was like, ooh, that feels good.
Okay, so let's start with who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Giap from Tongsayor, and I am a female empowerment coach and a conscious kink educator. So, what that means, I actually started my journey as a professional dancer, and then I moved into doing the energy healing work through having a kind of like, I don't want to say midlife crisis because I wasn't in midlife, but a massive mental breakdown when I was working in finance. And I had severe alopecia. I was having like skin breakouts. And that's when I was introduced to Reiki and Sikkim. But mindfulness practice isn't actually something that in Thailand growing up is, it's not a thing. It's like it's actually the way of life. You're kind of embedded into everything around how you think, how you behave, how you are of service, or how you are in the community. It has to come from that cultural upbringing. So I guess in that sense, that side of mindfulness and spirituality has always been with me, but somewhere along the way, I've lost myself. So I started doing energy work. I am a Reiki and Sikkim master teacher. So I teach others to do to hold space as well for healing. And I specialize now in sound healing. So with crystal sound bowls. I wish I actually brought them with me. But so really it's just the journey has taken me from holding sacred spaces for women, which I still do now. And I've moved more into coaching the last probably 5 years, maybe plus, more because I realized I was hiding behind these tools that helped me save my life. And what I really want to do was help people have the transformation and be their biggest cheerleader to move from one state to another. And the only way that I could do that, one is I think something that's really important to me is I have in my saying, I show my scars so others know they can heal.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram.
Yeah, and that saying means so much to me because one, it requires me to shed my ego and share my vulnerability because this is for me the gateway to transformation, but also the gateway to true intimacy, and that's with self and with others. So what I do now is one, being on platforms like this, sharing my journey, and two, guiding women from with all the different tools that I've learned along the way. So I've studied counseling, psychology, psychosexual therapy. I did Tantra level 1, 2. All of this is on my website, so I won't list them all out. But it's just combining all of these tools and then looking at someone's journey and navigating through it and holding their hands. So I guess that's one aspect of it. Now, the conscious kink side, that's the interesting one. So I got into kink and BDSM. So I was a professional dominatrix. And I did that as a way to provide for my family at the time. This journey came about because I was, I guess, maybe there's a trigger warning here, but I was sexually assaulted when I was younger. So I've been gang raped twice and raped 3 times in total in my life. And what that meant was my journey through healing my sexual trauma, which again, I talk a lot about on my social media platform. That is the seed of everything that I am. And when that incident happened, or when that trauma had happened, I realized now looking back that sexual trauma, my relationship with sex and trauma began way before I was even like earthbound. And that comes from cultural upbringings and beliefs as well. Yeah. So the work that I do now is through these story sharings, is creating community, but also sharing with women the tools I've learned to heal my sexual trauma, to come back into my own sovereignty of my femininity, my sexuality, and then move through it to a more pleasurable state of living and life, making it more accessible to us, like to embody rather than just something of the mind.
Yeah. That connection that you made with the, you did the dominatrix role as almost a way of, I wasn't going to say like the things that have happened to you, that was a trauma that triggered that. Is that what you mean? Or what is it that you mean when you said that?
So my journey on healing my sexual trauma first led me through being very promiscuous.
Yeah.
And that was a way to try to reclaim my sexuality, my sex, my pleasures. And I think like in my line of work and my experience that most women, and if you have been sexually assaulted at a young age, sometimes it's trying to be the boy and like just close off from emotions and just disattach. And then we play this game of wanting to be desired, and have loads of men wanting us to regain our power, a sense of power.
Yeah.
So through that, I think, becoming a pro-dom was a way for me to do that in a healthy way. So then I'm not actually running around breaking hearts. But then also the process or the different elements of what we do in Kink and BDSM allowed me to embody and release a lot of the pain, like consensually as well. So a lot of the anger, a lot of the aggression. I think that's probably why I did it really well, because it was natural for me to be in that dominant masculine role, because I wanted my power back. I wanted to, be able to release this in a constructive way. And there were men happy to pay for me to heal, in a sense, from these dynamics and roles.
That's so interesting. I've never heard anyone describe it in that way.
Yeah, I guess this is why also I'm coming out now, because the BDSM kink community and the Tantra community, most of the time like head to head. And there's a lot of people coming out talking about kink, BDSM, talking about like conscious kink, and everyone has their own definition and relationship with it, which is absolutely fine. But for me, I really want to make sure that people understand the full extent and not glorifying it or, hypersexualizing it, because it's not always that way. And that includes even my story.
Yeah.
It's just my story and mine alone. And it can be these experiences for others, but it's not always the case.
Yeah. So when you say conscious kink, what does that mean?
Yeah. So conscious kink for me, I guess that comes with a little bit of my love-hate relationship for neo-tantra, or the traditional tantric philosophies, and also my relationship with kink and BDSM, how it allows me. So I say now to my clients that we can use kink play as a gateway for deeper intimacy with self. So when I become quite heady and frustrated and I had a long month or week at work, I really love impact play. And I can sit here and tap all I like, but this isn't enough for me. I need something to bring me back into my body. Another thing is...
sorry, you said impact play. But what does that mean?
So impact play could be spanking. Impact play could... so it's anything that's impactful.
Okay.
But so sometimes it's spanking. Sometimes like it's whipping, caning, flogging. And I love that state because I'm a very heady person who overanalyze and strategic and hyper vigilant on everything. So I find it really hard to shut off. And when I do impact play, saying to someone, or someone saying to me, "Oh, submit or surrender," I'm like, "Fuck off! It's not going to happen." Like I'm like the bratty sub. So, but with impact play, it's actually me going into this like ritual of softening to heighten my senses of my body. And I think through that, because in some sense, when I'm used to self-harm, trying to like process the sexual trauma, I realized that what I was really trying to do was feel again, because I had disassociated and blocked so much and numbed from my body, I couldn't feel part of me. And that was even depressing. It's like being on antidepressant and realizing you have no feelings or emotions, and that can be depressing or damaging in itself. But through impact play, I was able to set a clear intention, come back into my body that was consensual, arranged, and I'm in control of that. And then know that I'm going to have my nervous system regulation and aftercare like at the end, so I'll be held. Did that answer your question? Because I know sometimes I waffle.
No, I think so. But my next question was going to be, you mentioned that you used to self-harm, but then with the impact play, is that not almost like you're just replacing one with the other, or why would that second one be a safer option than self-harming?
That's a really good question. So for me, when we self-harm, sometimes, so when I self-harm, and self-harm can look like from different things from, so I used to cut myself, but then self-harm, transferred to looking like alcohol. Self-harm could even look like being in dangerous place, having sex with, dangerous people. So it can look and feel different for everyone. But with the impact play, when you are deciding, and the person that's holding space for you has, first of all, the skills, the knowledge to understand how your body is reacting, behaving, or receiving, is able to also hold a safe container. So it's not, when I do impact play for my clients who are looking to come back into their body and move these very dense energies, I'm looking for the trauma responses. Are they disassociating? Are they fawning? Are they in freeze? And I'm using multiple sensation play in between to bring them back to breath and bring them back to the body to process.
Okay.
So it's not so much of, I'm just going to do this, this impact play, get a high, and then off I go and it doesn't exist. Actually, we're going on this journey together, and it will start light and it will bring you back into your body until your body starts, or your nervous system starts to understand that actually it's safe now. And through these sensations, we're creating safety in the body. And then we can process through words if you want to, or through painting, or through other forms of kink if that feels desirable or good to do so.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I always feel like, I have a very limited experience of like BDSM or kink, because for me it feels like very aggressive, and I have like this fear of like aggression. So it's really interesting to like hear you describe that, because for me that is the opposite of a safe space. Yeah. But
makes total sense.
Yeah, but yeah, I like how you've described that. Like, I think the other person also has to be like incredibly mature and woke in a sense.
and I guess that kind of goes back to your question, like, what is conscious kink?
Yeah.
When we're playing consciously, and it is, so if we were, creating, negotiating a scene, actually, I might not put you in a dungeon. I might say, let's, have it in a really beautiful, like yoga studio with sweet backdrops, and we'll just play with sensations, and we work on your boundaries, your needs, and we're just working, connecting with your body. And that is also a kink play, and it's not all about whips and chains. And power dynamics is an interesting one as well, because I think sometimes when we go to kink or BDSM parties, or what, it's a big thing, and 50 Shades of Lame has really taken us backwards in the community. But that power dynamic is always with us, and it's really subtle, because I think it's like, when your dad gets home and mum's screaming, shouting, and she's like, irregulated and pissed off. But then when dad kind of like says something like, you disappointed me, it's like, right. So that's a power dynamic. And that's not aggressive or invasive or dominant, but it's still dominant. So again, playing consciously is also playing to support someone's desire of an emotional state or sensation.
Hey ladies, thanks for joining us here on another episode of the Woman Up podcast. We absolutely love your support. And I just want to take a moment to say, please subscribe wherever it is that you're watching from, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, it really doesn't matter where. It just really helps us grow and keeps the podcast going. If you're feeling especially inspired, please leave us a comment with feedback or even topic suggestions. It really means the world to us, and I personally read everything. So thanks in advance. We appreciate you, and let's get back to the episode. Yeah. Do you think it's something that everyone would be interested in exploring, or do you think it's just a specific set of people that are into kink and they just do their thing? And
I think everyone is kinky, and I think everyone's kinky, and they just don't want to admit it because either they have thoughts, shames, stigma, or misunderstanding, or not educated enough to what it is. And I'd really like to, kind of like maybe educate people on the different levels of it as well. And it's just like sex, you can start off being PG, and then all of a sudden you're doing something wild, and it depends who you're with, and could bring out that wildness in you. So I don't think it's just for the selective few. I think humans are always curious to evolve and explore. And if you have that curiosity to evolve and explore yourself and your pleasures and experiences, you're going to have some kinky thoughts, and that's okay. And it's also okay. I did a kink test on my purse, and it's got like how many percentage of what kink I am. Okay. And my friend said, how do I understand what I am? So he did it. He went, oh, I'm vanilla. But he thought he was really, he thought he was really out there. He thought he was kinky. Thought, so he's a bit of a womanizer. So he was like, oh, I'm vanilla. I went, but it shows, even with men, how you may be out there portraying yourself as this womanizer and sex god, but actually inside, you really want intimacy. You really want something that's, I'm not saying kink isn't sacred, because I actually think it's really sacred, but you want something more, something different. And I'll be honest with you, someone told me, one of my subs said to me, your kink is vanilla relationship. And I was like, oh,
what does that mean?
I was like, how dare you? And he was like, you desire that, that very vanilla, come home, sit on the couch and hold hand and have dinner. I was like, do I? Because when we think about kink, we think about things that's out of our norm, that's our fantasy. So if my norm is always thinking about how everything is kinky and naughty or exciting for me, then maybe the kinky side, what's not normal, is that PG relationship, or that they say vanilla as if vanilla's a bad thing, but I love vanilla ice cream, so I love vanilla. I just don't get enough of it.
Yeah, I do think is the link on your Instagram?
I think so. I'll double check, and if it's not, I'll put it in.
I'll definitely be like the 0%.
You'd be surprised. Yeah. You'd be surprised. But definitely, do the test and let me know.
Okay, I will. Let's go back to what you were saying earlier about sexual trauma. What exactly is sexual trauma, firstly?
Yeah. So there's clinical, clinical definitions of sexual trauma, and I would speak more about my relationship and interpretation of sexual trauma for me. So we know that trauma is passed down through generations through the DNA, so from grandmother, mother, womb. We know that trauma is an experience that's happened too fast, too soon for the body to process. So for sexual trauma, for me, it's anything that is to do with my relationship of my sexuality, my relationship to sex of intimacy. And sex isn't always penetrative. That's the other thing as well. Yeah. People need to understand. So when I say my sexual trauma, began way before I was earthbound. It meant this year when I went to Thailand, I was very curious to reclaiming my ancestry and my heritage. And since I came to the UK when I was 6, I kind of shut off my identity as a Thai woman. I was actually ashamed to be a Thai woman. I was ashamed because the world saw me as a Thai or the bride, as a, just someone for sex, a transactional tool. And the other thing is, I was ashamed that actually the reality that most Thai women who are not privileged are groomed to use their femininity and their beauty as a way to survive and take care of their family. I think what's even harder is coming to UK, and I see even a lot now on podcasts, like not podcasts, sorry, on Instagram, that there's a lot of expats that's moving to Thailand but making these memes and jokes around Thai and the sex industry and Thai women. And I think how harmful that is, for a young Thai girl or someone like myself. And even though that is the reality, you're kind of mocking, our survival state, but yet you want to live on our land.
Yeah.
And we are depending on you to survive. So there's this power dynamic there. So going back to how sexual trauma, started way before I was born, I found out recently that Thailand was the only country in Asia that wasn't colonized. But what happened was that we basically gave our surrounding lands, so Laos and Cambodia was actually part of Thailand, and we gave it to the colonizers. But what it meant was we had to create peace treaties or I don't know, like some form of negotiation, but where everyone came to Thailand to not fight, to not have war. It meant we became the land of the smiles. And I asked this question, are we the land of smiles because we have to keep the peace for everyone? One, to not be colonized. Two, so that war cannot break out on our land. And three, to survive. So what does that mean for us? Are we in fawning state? Are we a nation of fawning? So if that's the case, and that's my, history, what does that mean for Thai women? That means we're groomed and taught to behave a certain way to keep the peace between the worlds.
Yeah.
We are, taught and maybe even throw ourselves into, our cultural religions in order to be mindful, in order to see things in enlightenment or take pain as a way of a sign of growth and transmute it. But it means we lose our sense of self-worth because we're always trying to hold space for others. And what does that mean for a Thai woman? And I start wondering if it means that actually your femininity of, how in the West, they think that Thai women are submissive by nature and very softly spoken and feminine and yes and graceful. But I'm starting to wonder if that's just a survival tactic. And when I go back home, we're feisty. My mum's a crackerjacker. We're crazy feisty. So, but when I see my community, the Thai women with their English husband, Western husband, they're all sweet. But then when they're fed their husband, we're all effing and blinding like bastards. And so it's oh, what are we doing here? So I think that relationship with our sexuality, having it to be suppressed, having it used to survive, to keep the peace, is ingrained through my ancestry. So when it came to my mother, and she's, living in Bangkok, and she's a singer, and she's having to maneuver through life and being a single mother, her, relationship with her sexuality, she had to exude it to survive, from being a singer on stage to actually finding a Western man to provide for her kids. So in that sense, my sexual trauma is passed down to me through my ancestry, which is probably created through the impact of colonization.
That was so deep. I was literally just thinking of like your past experiences, and I don't even take into consideration like my mother or my grandmother or anything like that.
And you think about as women how our mothers teach us to be feminine, or their understanding of us to be a worthy woman, like, oh, we have to be married, there's a husband, how much does he earn, da, da, da. All of this is the fear of us surviving this world. And then all of it is the cooking, the cleaning, is actually how can you show your worth and your value by creating these safe spaces for these men to show that you are not replaceable. And then you have to be sexually, excitable for them so that they don't replace you with another woman or a younger woman. So there's all these sexual expectations of us way before we were even raised or born, and that's been passed down, all for survival.
So then how do you know if you have sexual trauma? Like, how can it show up for someone?
Yeah, that's so sexual trauma, again, to me, it doesn't always have to be sexually penetrative or with like it doesn't have to be the extent like with mine, like sexual violence. But I had a client where the first time that she actually had penetration, vaginal penetration, was she was in a swimming competition and her period came. And her mum forced her to wear a tampon. And to me, and how that manifested in her adulthood was she found sex really painful, or she found penetrative sex unpleasurable. So when we did the energy work and we kind of like found the link, that was the seed of actually a woman, your mother, had forced you to do something for, if we think about periods of, they're painful riding that dragon, but to us, you're someone who is supposed to protect you, support you, enforcing you to penetrate yourself with this item for the first time so that you can go out pretend that you're fine and do a competition for who. And that the performative of sex, so how that manifested for her as a woman was that she was always performing through sex for the penetration, so the pleasure wasn't hers, she was never in her body. So in adulthood, be like, oh, I have sexual trauma, penetrative sex is painful for me, or I don't find it enjoyable at all, or I just perform and get it over and done with, and you consider as a sexual trauma, or there's something that's not connecting you with your pleasure in your body, but that all started with something that most people wouldn't deem sexual.
Yeah. So then, how do you deal with that specific topic? Sorry, that specific client. How would you go about dealing with that?
Yeah. So the journey that we took on, I think we started off with a 6 months container, and then she wanted to extend to a year, because I think once you start this healing journey, things start unraveling. But we started doing the lifeline, actually seeing where all these seeds were planted, and we started doing the energy work. So some of it is the energy clearing, some of it would be work like yoni cleansing, yoni mapping. Some of it would be actually the cord cutting of even that relationship with her mother, or even with past lovers where she would say yes when she really wanted to say no. And then there was the the forgiveness from the body, so asking her body to forgive the decisions that she made at the time. So there's a big process, and I like the journey to be a little bit longer, because actually when we're working with trauma, the body needs space to process what's happened, and grief will come up and anger will come up. And if we rush it, it's not, some healers say, oh, I'll just one session and off you go and it changes. And that might be true for some, but for me, working with sexual trauma, there's, loads of people talking about trauma aware and trauma approach. And I think what that truly means is creating space for the body to move in a way that feels safe for it at that time, and not bypassing, because I'm looking for long-term, sustainable transition and growth, rather than just that quick fix.
Yeah. I think also, like, I've had an experience in the past, well, when I was a very young teenager, and that there was something that had happened to me that I only recently, in the last year or two, have made the connection with something. So like I find it very uncomfortable to touch myself in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I've only recently connected that to something that's happened to me as a teenager. And it's like something that I just swept under the carpet and thought, no, it's fine, I'm over it. But I never actually dealt with it. I never spoke to anyone about it. And so I worry that like there are so many other women that have just swept things under the carpet that they think doesn't even exist in their brain anymore, or actually is very like prominent. So that's why I was asking you, like, how can sexual, like, how do you even know?
This is, you are so right. Most of my female clients, and most of the women that I talk to, will come into like their 30s, 40s, when they've now away from the danger and they've now got a little bit more space and safety. And we know trauma stays within the body until it's processed. So then there is this awakening, and something small can just trigger and awaken this. And a lot of the women that come to me, they're like, oh, I realized through our journey, and this is why it's a 6 months to 12 months program, because through this journey, we start to unravel and we start to heal, and then things start to feel safe to come up. A lot of times we block our memories, our painful memories that our body can't process. And as we, again, why I like to work slowly and with, like I say, the feminine way rather than the masculine, like coaching, let's get this done and over with. But through that, our body will start to speak to us. And this is really what we want to do. And we'll start to connect the dots. And they're really painful memories because I think when we've, like, even for me, I've shut off a lot of my painful memories, and even now my body's starting to be like, oh, this happened and we're ready to sit with this. But I need that space. This is common when it happens to us. I would say the first thing is we're so empathic and we're so understanding for everyone else. And the first person that needs it the most is ourselves. So when these memories come trickling back, take up space to pause. And that doesn't mean pause from your feelings or pausing, but take that space to do whatever it is that's good for you. Because these memories and these sensations in your body is saying to you, I'm ready to move this now. And that's a really big sign. And that's a beautiful sign because it means there's growth. And they're uncomfortable, again, discomfort, sensations and emotions, but it means you're growing and you're transitioning. And that's probably how we can tell. But there's subtle behaviors, like you said, like not touching. Like I think for a long time I didn't like having skin on skin contact with myself. And the other day, I'm doing my female pleasure sexuality practitioner course with Amy. It's really long worded. But this is how we're connected through mutual. And we did a yoni creative workshop on International Women's Day. So we sat there with the mirror and like, oh, this is one of my most uncomfortable things that I hate is looking at my yoni, even to this day. But then, like, I looked at it and then I had to have, and I knew because I'm going to disassociate, I knew I was going to distract. Like, oh, I need more tea. Oh, what's going on here? I know me. I'm so, like, I know me so much. And I'm like, please just stick with this. And I was, again, coming out of my mental health decline, and I was moving towards having my bleed. So everything was heightened. So I got my wax for my wax play. And I was like, right, we know that kink play helps you come back into your body, Giap. So we're going to work with wax today. And you know, like most rituals, feminine rituals, like, oh, to light the candle and the incense. I got a candle and I got an incense. I did all that. But as I stared at my yoni in the mirror, like I started to, and I know why I don't like looking at her or building a deep relationship with her sometimes, because it's really uncomfortable because there's so much sadness there. And she feels abandoned and she feels neglected, shamed, shunned upon. And I started crying and words started flowing out of me. And what came out was this real need to see how how courageous and strong and powerful she is. Because she's held so much. Like even holding the pain inside the womb, she's held that for me to do what I need to do to get here. She's endured, penetration when she didn't want to be safe or to survive. There's just so much there. And I thought I did move through the emotion of being sad and stuff, but then I started to realize how wonderful it is to have this body part that is so intelligent and has a mind of her own to actually still have capacity to forgive me and still be open for pleasure and for love and intimacy. So if anyone kind of resonate with that and feels this disconnect with their body, if there are these little subtle signs where I don't like looking at my body, I don't like touching her, I don't, wherever there's resistance, lean into that and use that as the gateway for deeper intimacy. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. And on that same note as well, is like the self-pleasure topic as well. Is, I know you're doing the training, but why is that important specifically for women?
Yeah. So I was very triggered and irritated because I think the last couple of years, it's like pleasure everything. It's like everything in your face. Oh, pleasure, be the most seductive version of yourself and have the best orgasm. Like, orgasm is your birthright. And for me, I sat there, I was like, I feel really shamed, like as in shunned, that I don't have pleasure, I don't have orgasms. Sex isn't always enjoyable. So, like, am I not woman enough? Am I not feminine enough? Is there something wrong with me? Or is it something wrong with my play partner? So there was so much of this going on. And I came to realize that pleasure, I don't want to say pleasure is a privilege, but pleasure is something that is accessible when there is safety to feel. And that really resonates with me, with someone who's with sexual trauma. I can find my biggest pleasure or orgasmic experience is through food. Yeah. So where I didn't have sex or where I didn't find sex pleasurable, as in sexual penetration or any sexual acts at all, I found food as the biggest erotic space for me. So I found it in other ways. But nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about actually eating or even like sitting with cacao, the sensation of it, or working with on your body, like that is arousing in itself. But everyone wants to talk about orgasms. So for me, the importance of going through this journey, one is my journey of creating safety to come back into my body. And in creating that safety to come back into my body and build a relationship, I can welcome the sensation of pleasure that is accessible and build on that, and not trying to push my body to fake pleasure, not trying to or shame her in her capacity to feel, but actually it's this curiosity to welcome sensations and rewrite the pain that we have experienced together. So that's why I think self-pleasure is important in our journey as women, and it's not always around penetration or something sexual.
100%.
Yeah, I think self-pleasure is, if it's only, again, just talking from my own journey as someone who's been through sexual trauma, is if pleasure is only accessible through food, then enjoy your food without anything like that, like without your phone, without the TV on. Be in that state. I think there's a French saying like eating food is like having sex or making love. And if we could do that, if every meal you chose was something that made you feel a certain way, then move with that so that your body and your neural pathway starts to learn that this body is deserving of receiving. And that might be just the gateway before we actually have the more intimate side of things.
Yeah. Do you think having a healthy relationship with self-pleasure will also have other benefits in other areas of your life?
Yeah, I mean, so my relationship with self-pleasure again shifts and changes. So I like doing rope bondage on myself. I do have a really good girlfriend of mine who's my top, and she ties me. But that to me, tying myself is pleasurable in rope, because what it does is allows me to see my boundaries. It allows me to feel the sensations on my skin, and sensation play for me is self pleasure. Self massage and like sensual massage is the self pleasure to me. What this means is I again learning about my body, my needs, my wants. So when I come into this space of like union with someone else, I get to say, this is what I want. And it's really hard for me actually. It's being on the other side of always being the giver for someone else to have their pleasures, to be like, I don't like that. This is what I like. And
I
now,
find that really difficult to say.
yeah, it's so common. Like, I don't think we're taught to say what we like and what we want. And you hear men, and sometimes it's not actually even sex, like, what do you like? How do you like it? And you're in the middle, like, oh, I didn't like this, but we're here now. And then guys are treating you like vajayjay, like a DJ booth. Oh, it's like, oh, like,
oh my God, that is hilarious.
But it's crazy. But when I build this relationship with my body, I can even like I remember my last partner, I got really frustrated. I said, you know what? Just sit there and watch. Right? Just sit there and watch, because I want you to learn. Right? And I'm dominant anyways, but I'm a switch. But what it meant was that to him, it was like, oh, this is arousing.
I was going to say, it must have been.
Yeah, like, oh, this is king. I'm just going to sit there and watch. No, sit there and watch, and don't play with yourself, because it's not about your pleasure. It's about mine, right? So you're not going to play with yourself. It's not about you. This isn't a show. This is you to learn. Because if you want to be part of my pleasure, then you better know what it is that brings me pleasure. And I took that outside the bedroom. So I'd be like, I like to eat this. I like this. It's this. I like this wine. When I come through his door, like, he always had a drink there for me. There's things that would, because I think a woman's arousal starts like obviously outside the bedroom. It's all about the brain. And I say, if you don't brain on me, you're never getting into my body. So it's stuff like that. So I made him watch, and then another time it's just like I would guide, and I would guide his hand, and I would guide how I want things, and we would make it a game rather than you're doing it all wrong, but how come you don't know my body? But also leaning into the conversation of curiosity, like, would you like, to know, or how about we I think when we were younger, we used to do this, where we used to do stuff on our partners to try to show them this is what we liked, hoping that they would catch on. But as adults, I think we can do that by maybe making it playful and just being curious to listen to the subtle cues of the body. And that's what I teach with my couples, is actually when we use like conscious kink and do sensation play, how's your partner breathing is changing? Does she or he lean in, or they do they lean in, or do they close up?
Yeah.
Do they tense? And then how do you get them to relax again? So it's this kind of like push and pull and building that sensation and arousal.
So you work with couples as well, not just women?
I work with women and couples. I'm currently not working with men for multiple reasons, but I have male subs that I'm interviewing for at the moment for some events, and they're there to just be service subs. But that's probably as far as it goes right now. I want to focus on women and couples.
Yeah. So then what is your main focus? Like, what are you hoping to achieve over the next few years?
So over the next few years, the first thing I want to achieve this year is get my bloody book out.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I need to get this book out. It's been sitting there on the to-do list for ages.
What will it be about?
So it's a memoir.
Okay.
But it's a memoir with like self-help guidance.
Okay.
So it's 7 chapters aligned with the 7 main chakras, with 7 traumas, my traumas. Yeah. And then the tools that has helped me to move through and navigate through some of these traumas. There'll be exercise like journaling prompts, but there'll be also like guided meditation, breath work, to support you on your healing journey. So, yeah, that's been there for such a long time, and that needs to get out this year.
Amazing. Let me know 100% when it comes out. Yeah.
I think the other thing is also having my podcast as well.
Okay.
But yeah, that one's a little bit scary, but I'll get there. But I think the main thing is the book.
Okay. Yeah. And how can people connect with you?
So you can find me on my website, which is www.tong, Tong, say, sayor.com, or you can find me on Instagram, which is @Tongsayor.
Amazing. And what kind of services do you offer? I know you've touched on it, but just to like bullet point what you offer. And then...
So what I'm offering at the moment is on my one-to-one container. So it's 6 months or 12 months, and it's what I call a curated healing journey.
Okay.
So we go through these transformational journey together, and we use different tools that I've curated specifically for you. Things will shift and change. I always like to say to my ladies that we're moving with the feminine vibration, which means we can have these outlines, but we need to create space for flow, because otherwise you get heady and then you find out that later on, actually, this is what you really need. To have that flexibility on yourself and some patience. I have my weekly sound bath classes, and that's at my home. So it's a very intimate group. It's a women's circle as well. And that's where I support women to tap into their gifts, their mystic gifts, whether it's psychic abilities or whether it's like reading or whatever it is. I find the women that I work with are all like mystic modern day witches. So I just want to create that space for them to harness it and grow it. What else am I doing? There's a lot of things that I haven't decided what I'm doing this year, because I feel like I want to focus on the books. But apart from that, doing more sex positive events for sex workers. So like a community based stuff. Yeah, I think the next in-person thing is on my birthday in a few weeks. So on my birthday, I am volunteering for a women's charity called Avengers, and they work with vulnerable women, in specific for AGM, and I'm going to be one of their guest speakers and do a wellness space. That's how I'll be celebrating my birthday.
Amazing. Well, thank you. I really appreciate having you.
Thank you.
I feel like we might need another episode, because there's so many questions that I would have wanted to delve into, but this episode will end up being like hours long otherwise.
And I'm a waffler, so.
So yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Don't forget, guys, to like, comment, share, do all the things. We really love your support, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.